I'm Gary Slaughter. After serving 11 years as a naval officer during the Cuban Missile Crisis, I became an information technology consultant to Fortune 500 companies. Today, I am an author specializing in World War II. My latest book is entitled World War II POWs at Home and Abroad, focusing on astounding facts about the imprisonment of military and civilians during World War II. Today, most Americans who observed German POWs in our country are no longer living, and shortly after the war ended, all POWs left America. Their personal records of internment here went with them. So compared to most other events that occurred during World War II, there is relatively little written about this sizable chapter in the history of the war. When I was a young boy, I observed POWs up close and personally. Yes, in the early 1940s, I encountered POWs from Camp Owasso right in my neighborhood. Since then, I have been captivated by this subject. My first novel, Cottonwood Summer, was published in 2004. This novel is the first in the series of 5 award-winning books. All 5 novels contain storylines relating to POWs in America during the war. To answer questions credibly, I diligently researched and studied this topic, and I was fortunate that my business required me to travel to Germany, where I encountered men who, during their younger years, spent time in American POW camps. Their eagerness to share their stories further encouraged me to research, speak, and write on this subject. Why the appeal? There are 2 major reasons. First, there were some 940 permanent POW camps in America during the war. These camps were dispersed widely throughout the 46 of the 48 states back then. Many of those in my audiences were old enough to observe POWs as I did. Like me, they too were eager to share their POW experiences and observations with others. Second, those who were not old enough to have personally observed POWs were generally incredulous when first hearing about the 379,000 German, 51,000 Italian, and 5,000 Japanese POWs for a total of 435,000 prisoners in the U.S. Americans wanted to know more. Why is this subject so unfamiliar to most Americans? When the POWs were repatriated after the war in 1946, all records of their internment in America were sent back with them to their countries of origin. In recent years, hundreds of books, including memoirs, have been published. These books differ from my work because those are basically anecdotal accounts that describe situations and activities involving individual POWs. Instead, I have recounted the history of this phenomenon and focused on the big picture and on the American government's policies and procedures in the imprisonment of German, Italian, and Japanese POWs in America. In researching for this book, I was reminded that there were camps in America, Europe, and Asia that confined civilians as well as military prisoners. These included internment camps and concentration camps, as well as death camps. In my book talks, attendees were astounded to learn that our own American citizens were imprisoned right here in the United States during the war. After the Japanese air attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, the U.S. War Department suspected that the Japanese Americans living here in the U.S. might act as saboteurs or espionage agents. Yes, the United States imprisoned over 100,000 of its own Japanese American citizens in camps throughout America. These citizens were forced to sell their property, including businesses, within 2 weeks and report to the camps. Conditions at the camps were sparse. Internees were forced to live in uninsulated barracks, furnished with only cots and coal-burning stoves. They spent as long as 3 years living in these camps. Finally, in December 44, they were free to return to their homes. Those who returned to the West Coast found their properties vandalized, farms gone to seed, and businesses bankrupt. The account of POWs in America and abroad is a truly unique and interesting element of the war, of which most Americans were and still are unaware. An advanced reviewer commented, "Whether you are a war historian or just someone wanting to know more about how POWs survived or died, this book is for you." Thank you for your interest.